Hello everyone and welcome to Scottish Summit and my session Understand Invitation Process in Power Apps Portals. After this session you will understand more about how the invitation process in Power Apps Portals work. And this is me, Ulrikke Akerbæk, and I will be presenting this for you today. We will go through a little bit about the core pieces that make up the invitation process. Let me just switch to this real quick. Hello, everyone. We'll show you how this works out of the box. What you can do with the base elements that are in there at every portal in the base portal solutions, and how you can set that up to get working just within minutes. We'll look at something you can do to extend this and make it more flexible by Power Automate Flow, and at the end we'll look at how you can make all this a little prettier. Now back to my presentation. Let me just shout out to the sponsors. Please take some time, look at their offerings, go to their website, make it worth their while to sponsor events like this. It really makes a difference, and it makes them more easier to make it more possible for them to sponsor us next year as well. So thank you so much to ScriptRunner, DK Global, Proximo 3, Redspire, Agilysys, and Hitachi Solutions for sponsoring this great event. A little bit about me before we dive in. I was actually a participant at Scottish Summit 2020. It was the last real event that I went to, and can you imagine? I'm presenting at the same event this year. So 2020 was all in all a good year for me, a kind of weird thing to say. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm the branding lady. I worked with SharePoint for 10 years ago. I started working with SharePoint, editing master pages, injecting JavaScript and magic on intranet sites. And back then, every client wanted SharePoint, but wanted it not to look like SharePoint. So it was never very user-friendly. It needed so much love and care to make it a good product. And so, and the same goes for the web. I mean, an interface that you look at and work with every day should be pleasing to look at, should give you a good feeling inside, and so should your web. So that's more about authenticity and trust and brand. And so today I do much of the same thing. I mean, I work with the user experience. I work with the portals, and today it's still much the same. It's how can you make a Power Apps portal not look like a portal? So for those of you who are interested in that topic, Franco Musso and I was on the latest podcast episode of Refresh the Cache podcast with Nick Dolman and Nicholas Hayduke, and talked a little bit about just that topic. So check that out. I've been doing web design for as long as I can remember. So my dad worked in telecommuting. So we had a computer, like the first in our community to have a computer. I was the first in my class to have access to the internet. And my dad set up my first website when I was about 12 years old. So I've been tinkering with this with my whole life, setting up websites for friends, for, the local, the school newspaper. Eventually I started doing this for clients, freelance, and all through my school years, I've been setting up different websites. So I've been following this fad for quite some time. I'm a UX designer at heart, and I always had the user in the front of my brain when I've been working. I'm a user defender, if you will. Another great podcast to check out, The User Defenders by Jason Ogle. And if you think about it, the invitation to your portal might be the first interaction or the first part of the user experience for your users. So it's kind of important to nail this process. It shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be a core part of your user experience, and you should plan accordingly. just to put a pin in something, I've made a series of blog posts that I will refer to throughout this session. I will display this afterwards. You can use the QR code right now on your screen just to get a link to a tag page where I tagged all the blog posts related to this session, so you can get that later. Right, so let's get down to the topic right here. So the invitation process, it's for when you launch your portal the first time. It's transitioning from an old customer experience solution. Maybe you're building a community around the product. Or maybe you simply have a voucher for the first 50 people to sign up. So there's a lot of different scenarios that fit this solution right here, this feature. And to cite Microsoft documentation, use the invitation feature of portals to invite contacts to your portal through automated emails created in your Microsoft Dataverse. The people you invite receive an email, fully customizable by you, with a link to your portal and an invitation code. This code can be used to gain special access configured by you. And with this, we have some extensibility. So you have a single type and a group type you can send to a single person or a group. Let me put a pin in that group thing. We'll get back to that later. You can set an expiry date and a special inviter. You can redeem. When the contact redeems its invitation, it could be automatically assigned to an account. You can run workflows, or you can set a specific or more web roles to that contact. And I will talk about those more in depth after my demo. This is the invitation process we're talking about. So like in the Microsoft quote there from Microsoft documentation, you create a contact, minimal name and email address on that contact. Remember, email address 1. So as you may know, on the contact table in our Dataverse, you have 3 email rows. No. Fields. Right. And use the email 1. That's a required field in this process. You will create a row in the invitation table in your Dataverse for each of those contacts, where in this scenario, you want to give them access to your portal. You will need a workflow that will actually send the invitation to the contact through an email. And then that contact will click on a link or go to a URL that's in that email and redeem the invitation. That's it. All of these components exist out of the box. And all you need to do actually is just configure it. We will look into the default solutions. We will look at how you can use the power of flow to extend this workflow. And then we'll look into how to make it a little more pretty. So as we go along, have these multiple scenarios in mind, right? How to use this portal function in a specific way. Now, let's go into our portal. So this page probably look familiar to you. I hope it does. make.preview.powerapps.com. That's where I always start. Now, this is my community plan portal. And this community plan portal, if you don't have it already, check that out. That's a great way to have a demo or have an environment. It lasts. It doesn't expire. It's not like a trial that has a 3-month expiry date. Check that out. That's worth investing in, and it's free, so you don't invest anything else but your time. I have my Ulrikke Akerbæk environment set up. And from here, I can go into apps in the left-hand side here. I have my portal set up. It's a demo portal. And then I see the portal management studio right here. And this is where we'll go. So we're going into the portal management studio, the portal management model-driven app. That's the legacy maybe interface for administrating a portal. And and then more advanced in a more advanced manner. So right here on the left-hand side, we actually have 2 of the 3 core components. So if I go into contacts right here, give this a second to load, I can create the contacts that I want to give access to my portal. So as you can see, I already have a contact that's called Ulrikke skill. So this would be my skill address. I type in my name, first name, Ulrikke, last name, skill, and my email, my work email right here. As you can see on the top, we have a create invitation button, and this is using the core invitation process functionality. So I just click in create invitation. It will take a second to load, and as you can see on the left hand side, we've gone from the contacts to the invitations, and this is a new invitation. This row hasn't been saved yet. It creates a new row for me, already related to my contact. It's put the name of the contact as a name for the invitation. It's a text field, and it says the owner of the contact is the owner of the invitation. Let me go through some of these things real quick, and I will go back in detail with, on this later. So first of all, you have the type, single or group. For every give user access to your portal kind of scenario, use single. Group invitations are only used for people or contacts that already have access. This is because you will get one invitation code, one invitation token, if you will, for the whole group. So this cannot be used for authentication. So giving access, single type. You see that we have expiry date, so you can actually set a date for when this invitation will expire. I suggest you do that for security reasons. And you can set a custom inviter, so this will be from the sender of this email or this invitation. The invited contact, of course, is the contact I want to invite. And on the when redeemed part, you can see the assign to contact or account. So you can automatically assign this contact to an account on redemption. Same goes for workflow. You can trigger a workflow when contact is redeemed. And you can also set web roles to a contact on redeemed. Now, before I save this new record, I wanted to show you on the advanced tab, I already have an invitation code text field, but it's empty. So when I hit save right here, what will happen is the base solution, the system will actually create an invitation code for me, and it will be long, and it will be characters, and it will be letters. And this is everything the user needs actually to identify with the portal when redeeming their invitation. So now I have my invitation. It has status new, and I have my invitation code. So what I can actually do now, if I wanted to use the core components, is go onto flow right here from the top, and then use the legacy workflow send invitation. This comes out of the box. Now, before I hit send right here, I wanted to show you what this workflow actually looks like and what it does. And because the core components, actually, let me show you this, how to find that real quick. So back to our Make preview PowerApps.com. On the left-hand side, right at the bottom, we have solutions. So this out-of-the-box based solutions are not really easy to find. You need to look or know where to look to find them. In the solutions, you'll have the portal-based workflows solution that contain a number of these workflows. And as you can see, we have the send invitation right here. I'll click on it to open it up. And as I was beginning to say, when you set up your portal in the base solutions, they have no idea what your URL for your portal will be like. So of course we will have to customize this so that when you send out that invitation email with that invitation link, it actually links to the URL of your portal. So as this is loading, I will go to my portal. I will copy my portal's URL. Actually, for demo purposes, let's do this, right? I'll go back into this this invitation workflow, and it will, of course, because I'm in a demo environment, it will take some time to load. All right, so this is a default standard old school workflow that we all know and love. But it's not very extensible, so extendable. So you'll have, as you will see, multiple steps right here. Let me just deactivate this so we can actually see what's going on. It has the encode invitation code process. This will actually prettify the long invitation code that you saw earlier and make it a little smaller, a little more manageable. Then it will create an email, which will contain the URL to the invitation code, and it will send it out. And it will update the invitation to sent. Right, so let's look into the email right here real quick. And out of the box, this is not really informative, is it? So what I would recommend you do is give this your own flair, right? So a little more text, maybe put in a hello and get the contact's full name. Maybe say something about the expiry date, what action the customer can take if the expiry date is you hit the expiry date. But primarily what we need to do is replace this URL right here with the URL of our portal. Then what you'll notice is the rest of the URL right here, it goes to a page called register, and question mark return URL, and then a dash, and then invitation equals invitation code. So this email right here, it's all fine. We can just save and close this. But this, as you well know, that interface for writing an email doesn't really look that good. It doesn't give you a lot of extensibility. So what I did was I created a flow instead that can do this for us. So now I go into flow.microsoft.com, or I can go into the make.powerapps.com and go to flows from here. I already have this open. I look into Cloud Flows, and I have created then the send portal invitation to contact Power Automate. So let me open this up real quick for you. And this is where I plug the first blog article. So I have a blog article that you'll find using that QR code that will explain every step and why we do it and what it's doing in detail. So I will not go through this in very close detail, just go through the steps real quick for you. So this is a flow that has the trigger from model-driven app trigger. So it starts with when a record is selected, I choose default environment and contact entity. So this is if you select one or more contacts from your model-driven app list, and you can go up in the top bar right there and select flow and run this workflow for multiple contacts at once. It will run this flow for each of these contacts. So for each contact then, initiate a variable, portal invitation code. It should be a string. And then you use this expression right here that creates a GUID for you. So this will be the identical or a unique, code, invitation code for each contact. Then we initialize another variable called the action URL, which will be the URL to redeem your invitation. I put in my portal's URL, same address as in the legacy workflow, register, question mark, invitation code, portal invitation code. Then we create the portal invitation row. So entity, invitation, as before, full name is the name of the invitation related to contact, and fill in the invitation code. Then here you can use Outlook's trigger if you have those licenses. It's much better in my opinion. I don't have that license here in my portal. So what I do, I use this email client right here, or email step, connector is what it's called. I use the action URL, I create a nice little link with it, and then explicitly I write it out. So this is for those you never know what kind of email client people are looking at. So it's important not only to hide this link behind a button right here, but it's also important to write it out in full text so people can easily copy the whole URL with the code and then use it in whatever browser they want. Give it a nice tone of voice and fill that out as you see fit. Make it pretty and understandable, and send that away to the email for the client or the contact. Update invitation status to sent and terminate as successful. And that's really everything to it. Now let's test this. So what I can do now is I can go back into my model-driven app. And again, I'll use my own Ulrikke skill. Now, I can select multiple, or I can select one. I can do flow, and I can do send portal invitation to contact. It will let me check my connections, and then it will allow me to run this flow. And of course, as it is Power Automate, you can always go into your flow and see if this is successful or not, and that is exactly what we'll do. Right, so this is done. I go back into my flow, and I look at the history right here. So this was run 7 seconds ago, so this is the one that we just hit. It succeeded. It took about 0.02 seconds. And let us look into the email right here. So this will see that it was sent to you at skill.no. That's my working email. And this is the link that it created for me. So what I can actually do now, just for demo purposes, is I can copy this. I can put it into a random browser. And as you can see, this GUID here is much better than that long portal invitation code that we saw earlier. So of course, this will take a little time to load, as it always does when it's a demo. And what you will see is that we'll go first. We will get to a page that will look a little something like this, but I have customized that pretty hard. So out of the box, this is what it will look like. It will have a text field where that invitation code in the URL will automatically be displayed. And you will have this check button right here. I have an existing account. Now this confused the out of me. The first times I saw this, I couldn't figure out what it was. And we'll get back to that later. But thank you, Engineered Code, and that community portals talk that he has every month. The January edition actually explained this in pretty detail. So shout out to Nick Hayduk for that. We'll get back to that later. So now my page is finally loaded. This is my portals. This is the URL that you recognize from the Power Automate. And this page doesn't look anything like the out of the box, does it? So first of all, we've hidden this menu up here. We've hidden the invitation code text field, and we've hidden this I have an existing account. The only thing remaining actually is this button right here, and we changed the text of it. So what you get then, and of course some of the other things around it, is also changed. So what we changed it to, because I find that invitation code text field and all that very confusing for users. So we just created a complete registration button, and I can click that. And it will take me to this register page where I can choose to sign in with Azure AD, or if you had Facebook or Twitter or whatever, you could choose that provider as well. Or as I have set up in this instance or this demo, is just a local account. So I can choose my username. I can set up a password. Let me see if I can get this right. And I can hit register. Now let me just plug another blog post right here. So for those of you who are familiar with the web pages that come out of the box with portals, you know that this page, the register page, and the sign-in page, they're not accessible to you. You cannot simply go in there, logged in, and say edit and choose whatever web template you want to use. So these are kind of out of reach when you want to make a portal not look like a portal, right? But as you can see, I've managed to get some background images and some other colors and make it look pretty nonetheless. So I have a blog post actually that will show you how to do this. And it is, I will show you in a minute, about content snippets. So all pages on your portal will adhere to a content snippet that says page copy. Let me just register right here and I'll show you this in a second. But this shows you kind of the extensibility that you have. You have the possibility to create this nice looking page. And look at the URL, how it's changing up here too. So, and it has always the invitation code with it. So as this register my account, and let's go back into here and we'll see the invitation will now be redeemed. And I will probably have a lot of invitations for this user. So open invitations or completed invitations. Let's have a look. Right, so this was just completed. And I now have access. And it goes directly to my profile page. So this is another plug actually for another blog post. If you want to redirect the user to another page and not simply this profile page, for instance, this scenario, you have customer self-service people that have just gained access to your portal. You don't want to send them directly to the home page or the profile page. It is necessary to send them to the customer self-service case management start page. Actually, what you do is on this URL that we can see right here, the register and invitation, right in here, you put return URL B, and then you say case management, for instance. And this is another blog article that will show you actually how you can set this up. Now let me take you into the the portal studio and the content snippets. So I will show you, this is from the portal management studio that we were just in. As you can see, the contact and invitation right here. And on the content section, you have the content snippets. And these are kind of fun. When you don't know, they seem like they're not a lot of content snippets. But you can actually create this as you go. So you're not limited to the content snippets that are already there. So for instance, page copy. A sign-in page copy exists, but I don't think either register or redeem page has a page copy out of the box. But you can create them. You simply go to new. You put in this instance, account sign-in page copy. And you can do the same thing for the registration page. Hit account, register page copy, as here. I clicked it, of course. You assign it to your portal. Type should be text. Language should be your default language. And then you put something in that's pretty strange. So for this example right here, I have a script that will grab hold of an existing div in your HTML structure on the page, remove a class, add another 3 classes, and then go deeper to the next element, add another class, and so forth. This structure allows me to put additional classes to structures on the page. And after that, I can grab them in my CSS and shape them. So now I've added classes like container, page content, justify content between. There's a lot of different custom stuff here. And when I go into my Portal Studio, I can upload a CSS right here, signin.css. I can edit it right in my Portal Studio, and this is where I can add the background image. I can set up rows and columns. I can add different colors to different buttons, and I have full capabilities here to create a much smoother looking interface for my new customers. So if I go into sign in, the default sign in page for my portal, this is what it looks like. Now, this is something you can do as well. I have the blog post already to go for you. So please do check that out. Right, back into the presentation. As you've seen, this has been the default use of the invitation process. You can have multiple flows depending on your use case. You can have multiple flows to have different tones of voices based on your customer target audience. Maybe you have multiple portals that you want to have different flows for different portals and different branding and different tone of voice again. Maybe you need to kick off different types of processes within your flow. There's a lot of extensibility that you can have within that flow. So please, just your imagination's in your way. I mean, just think about all the possibilities that are here. Now, something I put a pin in, the group invitations. So what you saw in that unbranded page was that invitation code, and I have an existing account checkbox. This is for the group type. So as you saw in the beginning, an invitation can have both single and group. Now, single is for giving access to your portal. So you will have one identical, a unique code for each contact, for each invitation. Now, the group type will have one invitation code for all the contacts related to it. And so you cannot use it to gain access. What you can do is you can use it for other scenarios. For example, as I mentioned already, maybe you want to give a group of contacts editing capabilities on your portal. So you would create a group invitation, you would add multiple contacts to it, and then you will have the web role assigned when redeemed. Maybe you can assign to a specific account. So maybe you have a customer self-service portal and you have contacts redeeming their invitation. They have access. And then it's up to your customer, really, who has access to your cases and your support instances, or your support cases, sorry. Then that customer can distribute this invitation code and give access to that account automatically on redemption. So this is actually what this is for. Moving on, some of the things I touched on earlier too. You can set an account on when the contact's redeeming automatically. That customer self-service use case comes to mind. Same with the workflow. So imagine if you have an onboarding session. Now you have an employee self-service portal. So all of your new employees already have access through it, through Azure AD. Now you want to give them access and make them aware that you have a customer's or an employee self-service portal. And you need to kick off some workflows for the onboarding process. That's when you would use the group invitation and have a workflow trigger when a contact is redeemed. So we talked about the expired date. Just want to emphasize the importance of setting an expiry date so that old invitations cannot be redeemed. It's for security purposes, of course, and then keeping good data quality by being able to delete old invitations. Make sure if you do use expiry date to make it clear in the email that this invitation will be expiring. As we already talked about, the web role, the possibility to add a web role when contact redeems is also very, very good to know. 2 small additional things that I want to mention. So I mentioned already actually the redirect after login. So you have the possibility to add this little snippet right here, return URL being, and then add the URL to your customer self-service case management start page instead of the home page or the profile page, for instance. I have a blog post about that as well. And then the last thing I wanted to show you was how you can lock your portal behind authentication. Now, this might sound odd to you, and I promise it's not a way to get around licensing. People, Portals is a wonderful product. You should pay license to use it. It should not be a free product. But when you have, like I have, a community plan portal, I have a production portal, and for instance, in sessions like these, presentations, online videos, I display that URL freely. You could all go in, browse my portal, and I would have a huge bill at the end of the month. So for me, it's important that this community plan portal is under lock and key. As I said, I have a blog post that show you how to do this. So when I go into my homepage right here, you'll see at the right-hand panel, we have a new option called permissions. So if you go in at the top level at your homepage, you can actually expand this permission, and you see as default it says page available to everyone. I toggle that to be off. It needs to load a second because it will ask you which roles can authenticate, which roles will this apply to, and then it asks if you should apply to child files. Now, make note, the first time I did this, I excluded the child files as well. This is your CSS and your JavaScript. You do not want to exclude these files, so they should be off. Now also make sure, now you see you get this little lock right here. It says that page permissions has been enabled. Make sure that all your child pages also inherit these permissions from the parent. Now if I go into my portals right here, I can go in and I can see, I can try to go into the about. It will automatically, no, about us it was, copy. I need to sign out, of course. I can go into my incognito window and I can paste this URL right here. Now, after I set this under lock and key, whichever page I go to, I will always be redirected to the sign-in page, and it will take that URL that I wanted to go to and put it into a return URL address. So if I go into About Us, I get to this login page, I log in with my account, I will automatically be directed to the page I wanted to go to in the first place. Isn't that neat, right? Okay, guys, we're closing up. So let me just wrap this up by emphasizing on the resources that I talked to you about earlier. Refresh the Cache podcast with Nick Dolman, Nicholas Hayduke. The last episode of February 2021, we talked about how to make a portal not look like a portal. Check that out. The Portals Community Call by Engineering Code is also Nicholas Hayduke, by the way. They have another one coming up each month, every time, exciting themes. This January it was about invitation codes. So if you didn't get all the answers you wanted, he will probably provide them in that community call. It's available on YouTube for free. And then also User Defenders podcast by Jason Ogle for those of you interested in UX. Lastly, I just wanted to wrap things up by letting you know all the platforms that I'm available at. So reach out on Twitter, LinkedIn. You can send me an email, or you can please visit my blog with any questions that you may have. And last but not least, thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great weekend and you enjoy all the other sessions here at Scottish Summit. And I hope to see everyone at Scottish Summit 2022.